All right. Let me get old Instagram muted for us here while we're streaming there. All right, guys. What is up? Welcome to the Living in Tacoma Washington podcast. My name is Austin, or Austin of Tacoma, as I'm weirdly being dubbed these days. So I went ahead and changed the old Instagram handle too. So if you follow me on IG, it's Austin of Tacoma. I'm here with my guy, Ollie. Now, you guys probably don't know him, and that's totally cool. The reason you don't know him is because he just got to our area from the great state of Texas. So brought him on today. We're just going to discuss, I hear a lot of stuff about people moving into Texas. We don't necessarily hear a lot of people moving out of Texas, even though it is a pretty big trend. There have been a lot of people moving out of Texas since the pandemic. So we are going to have a little section opened up for questions. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If there's anything relative, we'll definitely try to get to it for you. But Ollie, I'm super excited to have you with us today. How are things going on your end of the world?
Yeah, howdy, y'all. Ollie over here. Things are going great. The move has been honestly pretty smooth, as good as you can ask. Settling has happened the last few weeks, and we're getting into our routine. So yeah, things are looking really good.
That's awesome. Well, just to kind of kick things off, can you kind of share, like, with our listeners and our viewers, your decision, like what prompted your decision to leave Texas and come up here to the Tacoma area?
Yes, it was not I would say, easy choice, just because how much family and friends we had back home. But one of the things that kind of kickstarted that conversation between Sarah and I was the birth of our son. Just thinking about the life that he has and opportunities he'll have and things that we want him to be surrounded by. Of course, family and friends are super important, but we, like we explained with our family, we live 90% of our time in our daily routine, and then the other 10%, unfortunately, is all we have left to kind of dedicate to family. So we really had to think about what's good for our day-to-day lifestyle. And the next thing is, it was a really, really hot summer this year. And I think, like most Texans this year, we were screaming at the sun saying, I swear it's getting hotter. And this year we really felt it. I don't know if I'm just getting older, but it was pretty rough. So just thinking about how is, our little guy going to be playing out there in the sun next summer when it's 105, 106 degrees for the next, 3 months in a row, or however much it was. That was a pretty big factor. And then I think the last thing that kind of was like the nail in the coffin, I know it's a touchy subject, was there was a dangerous type event that happened in a mall near us at a time that we were supposed to be at that mall. So it kind of just kickstarted something in us where it's like, okay, we were going to be there and our son was going to be there. So let's move on.
Yeah, I get it, man. I kind of, agree with the weather. I'm from the Midwest. So yes, there are less snakes in Washington. Thank you from Facebook there. Appreciate that input. It's true. I agree. The weather here is beautiful. I like the mild climate. You hear a lot of people come out about, oh, well, it's kind of gray. It's gray. It rains all the time. And like, what people don't understand is, I think that are maybe from here, is that it's gray everywhere in winter. Like, yeah, it's gray in Texas, gray in Missouri in the winter. The difference is, here I have some rain, but the roads aren't iced. There's not snow. It's not negative 22 degrees. And, you guys experienced some pretty cold weather down there as well in the last few years. And I know your infrastructure was not ready for that. What was that like?
That was awful. I mean, it was 2 years back to back of just like total chaos where power goes out, they're doing rolling blackouts. It was very hard to work from home there when all the power is going off. Nonetheless, not even to think about all your food in the fridge. And yeah, it was rough. I mean, everyone knew, and everyone I think was pretty mad. And I don't speak for all Texans, so any Texans listening, your experience may be different. My life is different than yours. But yeah, everyone in my family and everyone I knew was just mad that things weren't done to take care of it. And then when the next year came around and the same thing happened, it just makes you go, why? What's going on here? There was a house in my neighborhood, unfortunately, that, suffered a pretty catastrophic house fire during that event too. So it's like, it's beyond just like, oh, I can't get on the internet. It's dangerous. People die and people lose their homes. So it's just one of those frustrating things about many states in the South, I think, that just don't experience it a lot.
Yeah, so that kind of leads my next question. Obviously we know the weather is pretty different from Dallas, and so we already kind of talked about how like the climate played a role in your decision. But like, how have you adjusted to the new environment? Because the weather here is a lot different than Dallas. So like, how's the family adjusted? Ollie and Sarah do have a kiddo. Like, how's he doing with it? Like, especially right now, being in the winter, kind of being more in that gray season, like coming from Texas, how are you handling that?
It's a good question. I mean, everyone told me, oh, it's going to rain all the time. It's going to be so depressing. It's pretty much dark all day. And my wife, Sarah, loves the rain. She loves the moody clouds. She loves the fog. I can't say that I'm like number one fan, sign me up, but I do like it. It's not bad. One thing that we pointed out is like the sun isn't always in our eyes, which is nice. Like I'm always like squinting in photos and stuff, back home in Texas. But it's not been that bad. I mean, the rain is constant. It rolls through. Sometimes it's just like a nice little misty rain. And sometimes, it's like a little pitter patter rain. But I can't say that I hate it. It's kind of grown on me a little bit. Ironically, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've just been in a sunny state for most of my life. But it's not bad. I mean, in Texas, when it rains, it pours, right? We get massive storms, we get tornadoes. It gets real scary for like 10 minutes and then it's gone and it's sunny the next moment. So I'll say at least it's consistent here. It's not bad. So anyone who's afraid, don't be afraid.
And there's no tornadoes.
Our first, I think, like 2 months in our new home in Texas, tornado was like on the path to us. And, first we're joking, oh, haha, tornado, of course. But then it was like really on the path to us. So it was pretty scary. But none of that here.
Yeah, you're not going to see those. I mean, we do have earthquakes. Like, I legitimately haven't felt an earthquake. I think I'm just lucky because people always come at me like, what do you mean you haven't felt an earthquake? But like, I haven't. But shifting gears here, more specifically, like to our area, like the greater Tacoma area, and, packing up the family and moving across the country, you guys being stay-at-home workers, there's a little bit of an aspect of like lifestyle and culture, I think, that come into play with anyone in tech or anybody who, works from home, which is the majority of our real estate clients. And so I was kind of curious, like, what aspects you guys could have moved anywhere, right? Like, honestly, there's nothing holding you back. So like, what aspects about like Washington, the Tacoma, Seattle area attracted you like to this area? And then like, how does that differ from kind of like what life was like back in Dallas?
Good question. Honestly, when we started looking at states to go live, the number one thing was like outdoors, just things to do. Because that part of Texas I was from, in the Dallas area, I mean, it's flat as a board. The biggest hill we have is, just to get down to someone else's neighborhood, it's really nothing. So we wanted somewhere pretty. And it was a pretty short list of areas that had mountains that we thought we could live in and like be tolerable around. And Colorado was my number one pick until we found out about the income tax. And if you've lived somewhere where you don't have income tax, it's really hard to sign up for that, because you're just like automatically like, okay, cool, here's my paycheck. And we just sign up, and hey, I get it. And it's good in its ways, but it's not for me. And it's not for Sarah. So that really shortened the list. And we were pleased to see that Washington had a very similar, price structure to my area of Texas where I lived. Especially, I mean, the homes were expensive, don't get me wrong, but they weren't like, holy cow, California, $1 million to get like a shack. No, I didn't find that to be true here, which is great. It was nice to be around the water. It was nice to be around the mountains. So that kind of hit the mark of, hey, let's look at Washington. Let's go check it out.
Yeah, the 5 biggest searches for like our area on Zillow in 2023, they did like 250 billion critiques of like people searched. And in our area, it was literally mountain views, water views, city views. Those were the top 3. And I think that probably rings pretty true. Like if you're going to move and you're moving for beauty, you're going to want to have water, you're going to want to have a cool city, and you're going to want to have, just the mountains to view. And like, you really can't pass those up. Like right now, the Cascades are freaking beautiful. Like seeing the snow on the mountains.
Yeah.
I love that. And I don't ever get tired of it. Like every day I'm like, oh, they're still here.
Right. And it's just like even the simple things like going to the grocery store or dropping our child off at daycare. It's like, oh man, I live here. Like there's trees, there's hills, and you get the beautiful backgrounds. And I know we'll get maybe into it later, but like our house has a view of the mountain. It's just, it's hard to beat that. I mean, we wanted activities. We wanted things to do beyond just going to a mall or going out to eat or going to, bowling. We wanted outdoor things to experience. And it's just kind of a breath of fresh air to have that here. And, the air is better. Now, at least not fire season maybe, but right now it's great.
Yeah, you'll catch that later.
Yeah, we'll get that.
It's still pretty awesome. Well, okay, so now with that, you're coming to the new community, right? And again, like I said, you guys are pretty typical like real estate clients for us, which is usually tech workers, executives, folks that work from home. So I know you guys didn't move and have to like change jobs and stuff, but anytime you move across the country, like there is aspects of your work that can influence your decision to relocate. So were there any aspects of when you were considering moving out here where work came up as either an issue or a benefit?
Yes. Like you said, we are very fortunate that we have both remote jobs where we can do a move like this. So let's start with that. But our jobs are both absolutely okay with us moving. In fact, one of my clients is here in Seattle. So it worked out in that regard. But the most important factor of that was I was working mountain time in Texas. So it was a bit difficult working 10 to 7 and still balancing my child. Being on the West Coast allowed me to work 8 to 5. And I know Sarah's hours have improved as well because of that. So a indirect benefit of the move is that we get more time with our son, which is a huge win for us.
Yeah, that is a massive win, bro. You never get more time with your kids. So outside of having more time with the kiddo, like what experiences have you had professionally? Has there been anything that's popped up and been surprising? Any changes? Like how has your professional life been affected by you packing up in Texas and heading out here to the Tacoma area?
I think it's mostly just opened a door a little bit with some of my clients because they are here. There's a lot of people here that I didn't think that were even in my own company that was like, oh yeah, hey, I'm in Washington too. So it was just kind of nice to find a little bit of networking opportunities there. I will say, in these scary times that we do live, of course, I always hope the best for our jobs, but this is such a hub for large companies. And that's something we're used to in Texas. I mean, the Dallas area is home to so many big corporations and large companies and really an industry for anything. And whenever, I've been searching in the past for things for, Sarah and, whenever I moved into my new job, there was always things that was out here on the West Coast. So we weren't afraid moving here. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm remote, I can live anywhere. And then you move to the middle of nowhere and then something happens to your job and now you need local employment. So I'm not as nervous. I mean, if that something, God forbid, happens, then there's a vast network out here. So it's given me a little bit of comfort.
Yeah, man, there are so many jobs out here. Like you can't even go by a building without seeing something that says, hey, now hiring, hey, we need help. Hey, come please. Like I can't tell you when we went out to eat even, and it's been like, hey, we're short staffed on waitresses. Look, meals are expensive now. And like you're popping 20-25% on a waitress fee. Hey, like you're not doing too shabby. I'm not gonna lie. Like tips are not too bad if you're running some tables out here. I mean, that is what it is. So let's chat a little bit about my favorite subject, obviously, which is real estate. So, first of all, like what factors kind of influence your choice of living space in Tacoma? And like, how does the housing market really for you as a consumer? I guess is more a question. As you as a consumer, how does the housing market here in our area compare to that of Dallas from your perspective?
Yes, good question. Once again, everyone's mileage may vary. I was fortunate to come from an area of Dallas that was pretty high in value for real estate, which is great because, it helped us out on our first house. We bought in at a really good price, and whenever we sold, we were able to come here with, some of that funding. But they were fairly comparable. The house that we ended up getting here it was more expensive than like what we sold our house for in Texas, with less square footage, but it came with a lot more like surrounding benefits, I would say. So the houses for the price are fairly comparable to the Dallas area. I will say that was probably the bigger naysayer because I just didn't even know where to look. Sarah's talking about, hey, let's go look at Washington. Seattle looks great. Like, look at all these surrounding areas. I just got really lost in it, and I didn't know where to look. And I got a little discouraged because I didn't know where to look until you came in, which is fantastic. Reason to talk to Austin, I guess. But yeah, we were looking at cost. We were looking at schools, most importantly. We were looking at safety. I don't even know the nuances of what neighborhoods are okay and what neighborhoods are not. And like, these are the things that it was just hard to figure out until coming here and walking around with you and touring it. Because the rates are what they are, it obviously made us need to shop smarter. We can't have this giant list of things that we want. We need to be a little bit more strategic. So that's why I think walking around and finding different properties really helps like level out. Okay, here's where you're going to be most comfortable. Here's where you're going to be most happy. Here's where you're going to get most of the things on your yes list. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So are you kind of telling me, in your opinion, because you're from the Prosper area, which if you're not from the Dallas area, it is one of the fastest growing north end suburbs. And I think really kind of sparked from, I don't want to say the remainder, but kind of sparked from Frisco, just absolutely like just going off, which makes it a great market. And you're seeing more and more, new construction out there. There's popping up master plan communities. But you're saying, based on your house in Texas, coming out here to the West Coast, the prices weren't that much different. So my question to you is, if I put a mountain in the backyard of your Texas house, do you think the prices would be about the same?
I don't know. I think I paid like a little bit of a premium to have a good house here, with that mountain view.
Yeah.
But it's close. That's the thing. Like, I really thought like they're going to be California prices up here, but they weren't. Obviously, we had to figure out, can we afford the King County area, or are we more Pierce County people where we don't have to have any additional tax there? And there's a lot to love down in Pierce County. So if you're looking on Zillow and you were discouraged by prices in like the Seattle area, look at Tacoma. There's a lot to offer here. But yeah, the prices, they're kind of close to what we had in Texas. And what I experienced in our neighborhoods for selling over there was a little difficult because there's so much new construction in Texas. There's so much land. So the way our agent out there explained it to us is, for every house that goes up for sale, there's probably 10 houses being built down the road. So it makes it a little difficult to sell. And it's something you should, that someone might want to consider when buying a house in Texas, if they're deciding, hey, I want my first home. Because, you might not have the same ease selling it as you did buying it. But out here, I will say there's a good balance between new communities coming up and existing residential homes, which are awesome. We ended up with the new build community, but there's a lot of options for us, at least.
Yeah. So new construction, now you have a unique perspective because most people don't build multiple houses in their lifetime, let alone build multiple houses before they're like 40. Like, that's just crazy. So what was your experience like building a house in Texas versus building a house out here in Washington? If you're going to relocate across the country and you're going to come out here, it can take 3 to 4 months to get that house ready to go, right? Where if you're building in your hometown, it still takes that time, but you're right there. So what was the biggest differences you saw between your builders in Texas and your builders out here?
Good question. So once again, going to be fortunate and grateful. We built in 2020. We signed our contract November 2020 to build our Texas home. which is a great time for price, but a bad time for material shortages. So our house over there took probably 3, I think, months longer than the anticipated time to complete the build. When we built our house here, we picked a lot that they had started the process of putting in all the permits, so that maybe shaved off like 3 weeks or so. But man, they were efficient here. I mean, they're like, hey, we're building in the summer. There's not as much rain. Like, we're just gonna go. And the house is great. It was a really easy build experience here, much easier than our build in Texas. I did miss not being able to visit the job site and see the progress and take my pictures a lot, because that's something that we did a ton in our Texas. We were there like every weekend. It was fantastic. But here, it was a pretty easy build. I mean, everyone that we dealt with, like from the sales center all the way through to final signing, was really nice, and that's kind of a common theme with the people here we're finding. It was good to have someone like on our side, representatives on our side, to check the process when you're not here to do it, because that's, I mean, builders can be great, but the builders are working for the builders, not working for you. So we were pretty insistent on wanting to make sure we had people on our side to watch over the build and kind of protect us in that way. But yeah, it was a very easy build. We in fact closed early by a week or so no complaints from me.
Yeah, and I think as we go into this year, Ollie, here in Tacoma, I think we're going to see more of the same. I think you're going to see more and more builders scoop up some opportunities with buyers, because one of the things that you guys experienced is we have in our area, just the greater Seattle area in general, like we have a lot of aging inventory. And just because it's aging, it doesn't make it any cheaper, right? Like you saw houses that were the same price as your new build that we did that were 50, 60 years old and, don't have air conditioning and things like that. So I would expect to see like builders continue to do well this year, but as rates kind of dip a little bit, I think they're going to have to really dive a little bit more into some of those incentives that, like they offered you with like closing costs or a special rate and things like that. But I don't think people should be turned off from it by any means. I mean, we don't have the master plan set up like Texas does, but the neighborhood that you guys bought in is just a few, what is just down the road from me, literally. Like we are minutes. Like we can hang out. Like we're that close, which is
totally
super awesome. And we did get to go out there. We did get to check out the community, and we got to check on your house, and I had a lot of fun. Just keeping up with the builder rep. But I would say I'm going to touch real quick just on what you said is, having representation is super important when doing a new build, because you got to have somebody to have your back. And there are some builders that aren't a huge fan of that. But look, if you're going to be, no matter how nice they are, like remember, they still work for the builder. And, we had, John Dupree stepped in on as far as the inspections go. And we had some amazing inspections with John, and he really did not let a single corner get cut. And I think that's something else too. People are always assume, I'll go back in the last day and check out this new house I built. But having that other set of eyes, like that trained pair of eyes, is well worth like the amount of money it costs to have that guy come in and take a look at it, right?
Oh yeah, for what it's worth. I mean, I know they're two different builds, but like completely two separate, sets of people. But I didn't have an inspector on my other house, and I did for this house, and my list of repairs have been much shorter. So, but John was great. I mean, he literally found like a piece of wood in the crawl space. He's like, y'all need to go get that out of there. Termites can eat up on that stuff. So he's very thorough. It's good to have an inspector. There was a few things on the list I didn't catch. But yeah, it's important. We've had our experiences with some of these builders that didn't want to have an agent come in. And one tip as well, I mean, Austin has shared this before, but I'll say it again. The first time you walk into those builders' offices, the first thing they want to have you do is sign in on that sheet or the iPad or whatever. And as soon as you do that, some of the builders, they won't let you bring representation afterwards. They have to be with you from the very beginning. And that happened in one of our communities in Texas, where our agent came back the next day with us because Sarah and I just went to go check it out. And they're like, oh yeah, there's a problem. We can't work with her. So, that's a deterrent for us. We went to a different community because we loved our agent. That's
a really good point, man. I didn't even think to bring that up, but you're right. Like, bring your agent with you. Honestly, anywhere. If you're going to go see a resale house, like, bring your agent with you. Like, you want to have somebody there. Like, bring your mom. I don't care who you bring. Bring somebody else.
Just someone. You need a second pair of eyes. You need someone to just be like, that's not right. And for us, one thing that was awesome, and we didn't even think about doing this, for people that are moving out of state, you don't want to fly up here any more times than you have to take care of business. And the design center is one thing that you really need to be there in person to feel the material, see it under the right light. It doesn't translate in video. Like the bed behind me probably looks different to you than it does for me. And one thing that Austin pushed the agents to do is like, hey, they're here right now. They're going to be here tomorrow, and then they're gone. And you can save them probably $1,000 worth of travel by just doing the design center today. And we did. We went right to the design center, got to do an express appointment. Of course, not every builder will do that for you. Ours are great as well. But we did. And it really, I mean, it saved us money by doing that. Because I know Sarah, like my wife, would not want to just look on an iPad or whatever and say, oh, I think that looks right. Like you have to feel it. You have to be there. So just another reason, you don't think about what your agent can do for you. And that's one thing that helped us.
I'll beat up builders any day. I'm just kidding. I love our builders.
Builders are good.
Comment from Angolana, USA. I think that's hopefully how I'm saying it right. Saying thinking about moving to Tacoma or outside of Seattle. Appreciate that comment. My phone number's right here on the screen. Why don't you just shoot me a text, and you can even name yourself Angolana USA, and I'll be happy to chat with you a little bit about it. I see you're in Maine and you're tired of the snow, so once I get that, let's move to the other side of the universe, literally. So thank you for chiming in. Yeah, man, the that whole process was pretty cool, and since then we've had several people use that same builder, and we've had a really good time. So next thing, adopting to a new city. It involves embracing different cultural norms, obviously. Can you kind of share some experiences now that you've been here a little bit, where you've had to adjust and kind of what you've come to appreciate about the local culture here in Tacoma?
Yes. I have lived 25 plus years in Texas. I've been there most of my life. So I have been really tapped into life there, and that's all I know. So it was a little bit different coming here, but not in a bad way. It was just a few things that we noticed that stand out. Number one is people just in general. I think life feels a little slower out here in a good way, in like I'm appreciating every moment, that I'm not like I'm always in the rat race. I got to be from point A to point B. There's nothing to see in between. Life's just slower. And I think because of that, we've had more pleasant interactions with people. I don't know if just like waking up and seeing trees or water or mountains does something in someone's mind, but everyone we've spoken to here has been so nice. Like even at Lowe's, the guy like remembered our exact paint build that we did when we came down 2 days later to get more paint. Like people are nice here. Like they're just really friendly. And that's funny coming from the South, because like, the South is all like, oh, the Southern charm and whatnot. People always call you honey and sweetie and whatnot. But I don't know. People are nice here too. I don't really get the whole, oh, people in the Seattle, Tacoma area are so mean, or, they're cold. They don't want to talk to you. Nah, man, people are cool here. They're really cool. Down to earth people. The next,
your wife coming in here says Southern hospitality is nothing on Washington.
Hey, there's a place for Southern hospitality in my heart still. I'm not dissing the South. I'm not dissing Texas. I love Texas, but there's some good stuff out here too. So for anyone who's afraid, it exists. I can still get sweet tea here, so that's good. I can still get ranch here when I order with my fries and my pizza.
Gotta have ranch. I couldn't
have ranch. Yeah, we were at a restaurant, a month ago or whatever with Austin, and he ordered ranch with his fries, and I just smiled. I'm like, oh, thank goodness, like someone else does it too. There's plenty of Dr. Pepper to go around. Like it's all accessible. Don't worry. The next thing is that people embrace the rain. I mean, like if it's worth doing, it's worth doing in the rain, I think it's the saying, and that's clear. I mean, people were walking like there's a dog that was walking this morning with some dude, and the dog had a jacket, like a raincoat on.
Yep.
People just keep going. It's kind of cool. I mean, whatever, it's raining a little bit, just throw on the jacket, you'll be fine. And then people are more patient. Like when driving around town, I'm not hearing people honk at me or revving their souped up truck at me and cutting me off, or, even lines. Like, I don't know if there's just less people or if it's like more spread out around this area, but like, man, we go to Kroger at the grocery store in our home city, and there's always a line, like all the way to the back of the store, it feels like, for the self-checkout and all that. But I mean, I don't know. I don't feel that kind of like population density here, and it could be the Bonnie Lake area, but everywhere we went, it just seemed to be pretty tame. Even IKEA, we went to IKEA on a holiday. It wasn't that bad.
So, speaking of drivers, do you feel like drivers drive slower here than they do in Texas? Because I want to
Yes.
run over people sometimes.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They drive slow, really slow. But like the speed limits are all slow too. I'm used to like, okay, 45 is the bare minimum. Like I have a road outside my house, it's 25. 25. So yeah, people drive slow, and I don't know if they're just looking around or if it's just part of that like slower just pace of life. But yeah, sometimes I want to go around, but other times I'm like, wait, this is kind of nice for a change. I'm not getting run off the road by some tank.
So outside of the new build, outside of building the house that we built, right? Kind of curious, like out of all the suburbs, out of all the areas around Tacoma, why was the suburb of Bonnie Lake like appealing to you? And since you've been there, because it's a smaller town, bro. It's like 20,000 people. So unless you count Tahale, which is another 20,000 people, but I'll put that for a later moment. But let's say, outside of that, like you said, you're a good experience at the grocery stores, all that, people are nice. But like, what was it about that particular suburb in the region that made that be the place you want to call home?
That's a really good question. I mean, we toured a lot of areas within our price range, and we looked at areas outside of our price range. Like, obviously, when someone's looking at this area, the first place that I think their head probably goes is like Bellevue and Redmond. Those are, in my eyes, it's always been like, hey, like that's the place to be, right? I knew that we wanted to be in the suburbs. I knew we did not want to be in a city type environment. So we were looking a lot around Bonnie Lake. We looked in Sumner. We looked in Puyallup, UP. Looked there too. I think what really brought us in is that it feels like a more southern styled suburb, and that could just be a super general statement. Like I'm sure this product exists in other places, but it felt more familiar and it felt kind of like home, where you have everything you need within probably a 30-minute radius. And it had the schools that we wanted. It had the stores that we're kind of used to. And it was more tucked away. It wasn't like in the hustle bustle of the city, which just wasn't for us. So that's kind of what drew us to the area. Bonnie Lake in particular, it looks like it'd be bigger on a map than what it really is. You're right. It is pretty small. It's like that stretch of highway and then like stuff surrounding it, and that's kind of it. But it's nice because like when you're driving on the side roads and stuff, like you're driving, if you feel like you're in the mountains, there's like trees everywhere, and it's just easier. Coming from like Frisco, Prosper, where it's like massive and it takes probably 25 minutes to get to the store because how congested it is, it's nice being in a smaller area. But like some lady in Seattle this weekend left when I said I lived in Bonnie Lake. She's like, "Oh, you're out in the boondocks, huh?" I was like, "Boondocks? It's very. What are you talking about?" I don't know. Maybe it is to like Seattleites. I don't know, but like it feels good to us. It really felt like home. It was just really comfortable.
Well, that's kind of the thing is like it is a really good area for people who are relocating, I think, from the Midwest or Texas, because it does have that like kind of comfortable feeling, like, again, it's not too big, it's not too busy, it has kind of a small suburb vibe. And yeah, Sarah, you're right. Sarah's chiming in here saying nothing can beat that mountain view. And I think Bonnie Lake does have some of the coolest views of Mount Rainier. Like,
oh my gosh,
down, like definitely nailed that one out of the park. All right. Well, do you mind if I turn the heat up a little bit and ask you a little controversial question?
Please.
All right. So if you're not pissed at all, we'll see what happens after this next one. All right. So Texas and Washington are, I think in a lot of ways, pretty polarizingly different. And I think there is a lot of roots in Texas, and there's kind of this, neoteric modern vibe out here. And so let's call it what it is. Like, politics is kind of a touchy subject, and both states have their own political landscapes. So how, like, if at all, have politics impacted your daily life and interactions with people compared to like where you were at and where you came from?
That's a good question. I once again start off with mileage may vary. I have my own beliefs. I will not preach them to anyone. It's just not the kind of person I am. But it's different in a good way. So we were looking for somewhere moderate because, in my personal opinion, our state and our area in particular was extremely leaning one way. So we were looking for something more moderate. Of course, Colorado is a state that appealed to us, but in my personal opinion, I would say it leans a little bit more one way. California felt the same way. It leans personally a little bit more one way, whereas Washington feels a little bit more balanced. It's like a bit more purple than it is like blue or red, which is something I wanted. Because there are some things that I liked about Texas politics, and there's others that I did not. So I find that you get a little bit of both sides out here, especially maybe in the Tacoma area. I'm not too sure about Seattle. I just haven't spent enough time out there, but that's how it feels here. Taxes, I think, are one thing that's always going to scare a Texan, because it scared me. It's like, hey, we live in Texas, we got it the best, right? Well, turns out it's not always true. Property taxes are cheaper here, which is nice. Like really nice. It goes up really bad in Texas. In Texas, like living there for 2 years, we had a property taxes increase on us, and we're paying, I think, less in property taxes here than we are for more house out in Texas, which is fantastic, especially considering the house here is more expensive. So another factor there. Crime punishment, I'll just say, is one area that I think Texas does better. That's just my opinion. Things feel a little bit more regulated in that area there. But I'm not going to say that it feels like scary or the Wild West out here. Like, it feels pretty good. It feels safe and clean. There's areas, of course, in any city that aren't, and that's okay. But I'd say, you know, if you're in Texas and you're thinking about this move, don't think that it's the Wild West out there. Don't think it's like crazy and, you know, people are just running amok. Like, things are pretty organized and comfortable. Guns, I don't want to go into political issues, but guns is a thing. You know, it's part of life, right? We have it here. We had it back in Texas. We have it all across the country. But there is a certain weight that's been lifted off my shoulder being here, and it makes things more comfortable to do things out in large settings, being in public spaces. There's just a personal anxiety that I have that has been, you know, it's never fully cured, right? But it feels a lot more tame here. So that's my personal belief in my own thing that I liked. And I just find that people don't necessarily wear their politics or their religious beliefs on their forehead here. You know, people aren't just walking advertisements for a certain Democratic Party. It just feels like people are just more people, which is good. The area that I came from was a very flashy area. Once again, very fortunate to be in that area. Loved it. But the byproduct of it is that people were all the same in a certain regard for like religion and politics, and they were like blasting that everywhere. Like, you couldn't just have a conversation with certain people. It was just, there was always that undertone, which is fine, just not for me. So politics wise, I think things have been fine here. I just got my voter registration card, so I'll make sure to keep voting in things that I feel important and call it a game. They'll call it a day.
Man, I'll tell you, I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one. Like, coming from the Midwest originally, there is this certain, you know, even if you believe it, right? Like, even if it's what I believe, okay, there's just this weird element of pushiness that, yes, like, I'm going to tell you what I think no matter what. And by God, you better fucking believe it. And if you don't, I'm going to ram it down your throat. And yes. And like, I'm with you, man. Like, I did not want to continue doing that. Like, you know, and honestly, I think maybe for a Washingtonian, I probably have a more conservative viewpoint than a lot of people.
Sure.
But I'm kind of that middle of the road too. Like, I really love personal freedoms. I'm more conservative fiscally.
Yes.
So what I love is, like, that's the first time probably anyone has ever heard me say that. And that's the norm, right? Like, no one out here is flashing. I mean, you're going to see like the occasional around, you know, election time, you're going to see flags, you're going to see signs, but you can go have a conversation with somebody at Costco and they're not going to shove Donald Trump down your throat. You know, you don't have to talk about how much you love Joe Biden. Like, you can just be whoever you are. And I feel like one of the beautiful things about our area is be whoever you are, as long as you don't just slam it in other people's faces. We're fine with you being literally whoever you want. Where we draw the line is whenever you start forcing it on other people, that's when our area is no longer cool with your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a major point. The other thing you talked about too is moderation politically. And I've seen the same exact thing. And I've really stepped back the landscape. All you hear is all the triggered people in Seattle and Tacoma is super liberal. Here's the thing, man. Like, again, people aren't shoving it down your face. But if you look at the political makeup, and this is going to piss every person in Texas off, so I'm going to say it. The states aren't any different, bro. I'm sorry, but like, land doesn't vote. You guys, Texas has a Republican governor. We have a Democratic governor. But the reality is Dallas is liberal. Houston's liberal. All these big
major cities.
All the major cities are liberal. And just like whenever you get outside of the major cities here, you're right into farmland. You're right into the country. Like, it's really not very different. And I think that story isn't told very successfully by the media.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of a part that's left out. But there is a good balance here. I'm glad you guys have found that. I'm glad you're comfortable, and I hope you guys you're feeling some relief from the pushy system, as I like to call it.
Yes. Yeah, we are.
So let me ask you this. Do you ever find yourself, like, now that you've been here for not too long, but a little bit, like, are you finding yourself missing any aspects of Texas? And like, how do you balance that nostalgia for your home state with the excitement of being somewhere new?
That's a good question. Of course, with any change in life is going to come nostalgia and come things you miss. Family and friends, immediate access to them, of course, is the biggest thing on our list, especially having a small child. We do miss our family dearly. But I will say, I've been speaking to my mom more than ever. I've been calling her more than ever. She's getting a lot of FaceTime calls from us because, we miss them and we want to see them and talk with them and catch up. So that's the biggest way we've been getting around that. We've just been talking with them constantly, which is refreshing. It's nice because I would say even living back home, I would see my mom, for example, maybe once a month, maybe once every couple of months, because she lives about 45 minutes away. But now I've spoken with her, every few days. So that's pleasant. Another thing we've missed, at least me, is Whataburger. There is no replacement for Whataburger. It is damn good. I mean, it's not as good as, since that Chicago company bought them out, but It's good. It's Whataburger. But Taco Time is pretty good up here for anyone interested. It is fresh. The ingredients are good. This is not sponsored, but they are good. So,
can you imagine my YouTube channel was sponsored by Taco Time? Like, that's the most fat kid movie you could ever imagine.
We need to blast the logo up top, but Taco Time's good. But there is no Whataburger, so I've been kind of coping with that a little bit. But there's plenty of other places to eat, so I'm over it. And then the last thing is probably just the familiarity. I mean, we knew DFW like the back of our hand. My wife claim to fame is that, navigation, that's for losers. Like, I know how to drive through the whole city by myself, which is a good trait to have. It's very important. But, we don't really know where things are here. We're still kind of getting used to things. And even just the route home from, popular places we've been going to, like, well without the city, like into Seattle and stuff. We're still learning. And that's fine. I think part of it is, hey, I'm not familiar with things. But the other part of it is it's exciting to experience new places. Like, we're not looking at the list of the 5 different places that we cycle through back home. There's always something different. There's always something new to explore. And that's an exciting thing for anyone moving anywhere. But particularly here, because there's a lot of the things that we like, which is like outdoorsy type activities. And then we're talking, this is like the most like weird thing. Sarah and I were talking about the Texas sunset, because Texas has a pretty sunset. I mean, we got the big open sky, right?
Yep.
And we're just, I'm like, hey, there's nothing like a Texas sunset, which there isn't, but we got really close. Like 2 nights ago, there was a sunset, and you got the pinks and the blues and the purples and the orange. It looked really good. So, I'd say 8.9 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, wait till summer. When you get to summer, you're gonna get the amazing, the amazing sunsets.
Well, all that gets thrown out when you see the mountain anyway. So
exactly,
sunset.
Yeah. If you get out there, you can see the alpenglows and all that. Like, it's incredible. I think something like, even for me, having relocated myself, I've noticed that, like you said, the family time when you're around people, it seems like you just maybe you don't take advantage of it, but you just kind of forget like how important those people are. And like Elena's mom, my wife, like she comes out like every quarter. Like, and those are very, she's maybe here for a week, and they're like really dedicated times that we are all together. Like it is very, very dedicated. She's there for a week. She hangs out with the kids. This is like, 4 or 5 times a year. And we all take advantage of, like, we're going to Phoenix in March when she comes up here for the first few days, just have a little escape. But like the time now that we get with family, we do cherish it. And I think for us, our little family has become so much tighter. We got used to going to Christmases where there's 100 people just running around like crazy, or Thanksgiving. Now it's just our little team. Mm-hmm. And those times are very close. They're very, I would say, a lot more intimate. My girls help my wife make dinner. We all watch movies together. And like, I've actually really enjoyed this seasons more because we're able to like enjoy those holidays. We're not forced to run around to 1,000 different things we don't want to be at. We get to make the determination of how we spend those times and who we spend that time with. And I know, so for us, that has been, a really big move. I'm obviously having the baby, like I'm sure you guys are kind of experiencing some of that as well.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it was most of our like weekends we would spend with my in-laws, which are fantastic people. We literally couldn't have done this move without them. They are just praise for them. Seriously, they were great. My mother-in-law's coming up in July, and like we're already planning things to do. It's not gonna be like, oh, you're just coming over, help watch the baby while he's out daycare. It's like, let's go do fun things together. So I mean, I think there's like some energy and excitement about taking family that comes up and visits and showing them around and like actually getting to do activities together, where like normally I wouldn't say like we're the kind of family that we usually go out and do activities, with our parents and all that. Like you would go out and eat and stuff, but you wouldn't like go out and do stuff. But I'm excited to have that, when they come up here. And then for our immediate family, just because the nature of getting to work more reasonable hours and such, like we are much closer. I mean, we are all we have within this house. If our boy's sick, there's no one that can come in and help. Like we are really bunkering down and working on that. But it makes it feel a little bit more close knit. And I mean, we are so much more structured. We actually sit down and have dinners together now, which is crazy. We have a routine where we get to just trade off and better balance his care in our home. So I don't know, everything it feels good. We've owned a home before and had the baby in it, but it was just a little different there than it is here. And I mean, it feels good.
That's awesome, man. I mean, so obviously you guys have had, some good experiences. I think for me personally, when I relocated, it was kind of a transformative experience. You go through a lot. There's a lot of big changes. You have to, I mean, honestly, moving across the country, like there's a certain element of just even telling your family that you're leaving and moving away forever. Like that is a man up moment that like, rough. I don't think that any of us, I mean, I wasn't ready for the weight of that personally. So, since, moving to the Tacoma area, like how do you feel like you've grown personally? And like, what are some of the lessons throughout this process that you could share that you've learned along the way that might be able to, maybe curb someone's pain when they decide to relocate as well?
Yeah, I'll start with personal growth. I mean, I would say, once again, because of probably the nature of my hours, plus other factors of just, we're who we got out here, until we kind of build that network of friends and family. I'm more present with my kid and with my wife, which is what I wanted. I was just kind of felt like we're in a bit of a rut out there of just, we're in the rat race. We'll work, we eat, we sleep, work, we eat, we sleep, which can happen here. Once again, it's just, that's how my life was. But here I feel like we have more time, and the stuff that we do on the weekends are more pleasurable. So it's been a major quality of life. But one of my growth areas was just wanting to be more present with my son and my wife. And that's so far on the right path. I want to adopt a healthier lifestyle. You said in one of your videos that you lost weight just by moving here. And yeah. I don't know if it's like moving weight or just like I've not been able to sit down and like rest. But like I'm already down like 5 pounds. So
that's awesome.
Maybe it's the lack of Whataburger. I don't know. But I want a healthier lifestyle. I want to be able to like walk those hills in Seattle and not feel like I'm going to hunch over and die on the street. So that's been a pretty big thing. And so, yeah. And then Hobbies is another one. And I think I'll probably be forced into hobbies here, just like not having the default, like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, let's go and like hang out with the in-laws, like, right down the road. They might be forcing us to kind of pick up hobbies and, maybe sports and just local things. I'm really tapped into Reddit, and there are so many communities on there that are like super inviting. Like, hey, like, have you ever tried XYZ? Why don't you come out? Like, we're going to play frisbee golf in the park here from this hour to this hour. There's a group of like dads that meet once a month at this bar in Tacoma. It's like Tacoma Dads Group or something like that. And
shout out to Tacoma Dads Group.
Shout out to, I don't know if that's the name of it, but like I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
So, you know it. Okay, so there's
on Instagram.
There you go. The Tacoma Dads. They go out and have beers and just kind of hang out, play shuffleboard stuff or whatever at the bars, darts. So yeah, I think finding hobbies is going to be important just to kind of keep us all, active and not scrolling on our phones at home. So that's their growth areas. That's a good list, I'd say, for this year. And then challenges, like things that we experience to save you some hassle. One of the things is like how you move here. We considered so many ways to do it. Do we use a massive moving company? It's going to put all the stuff in the thing and just truck it out here. Do we use pods? Do we use a U-Haul? Like, I don't know. There's a baby involved. How does that work? We got to drive our car up there. It's a lease. You can't just turn it in or sell it. There was a lot of like planning, and it wasn't easy moving in the winter either, because like the weather across the country makes that drive difficult. And massive shout out to my wife and my mother-in-law doing 4 days in the car with the cats and some luggage. So they did it. It's possible. But we ended up using pods. It was great for us. Saved us a lot of money from using like one of the big movers. But that's one thing I'll say. If you're considering doing the move, think about your stuff and how it's going to, what it'll take to get it here. Pods was awesome. We liked it. Your mileage may vary. Another thing was knowing the areas. We had no knowledge of it. And it took us coming out here physically in touring areas to see if we have the right vibe. We were looking at like 5 different areas of town across, all the coast of where we could possibly live. And of those 5, probably like 2 of them stuck, which are like, oh, hey, now that I'm here in person, this isn't for me, or I really like this. I want to see more of this. It's different than Texas. Texas is designed as a giant master plan community from head to toe. It's just kind of what it is. But it's not like that here. There are nuances, there are changes. So that was an important thing for us, a big learn. But yeah.
Dude, I think that's why we got so big on, as much fun as I love talking real estate. So we got so big on just going out and filming those vlog tours that you see on our channel, because like, it's so like my biggest pain was that right there when I relocated myself out here was, dude, like I don't know which area fits my vibe, which area like is going to work for my family. And so we ended up making so many multiple trips out here, and we didn't have my YouTube channel when we moved here. So we didn't have me. So we were just like, honestly, winging it. And we definitely spent way more money than we should have. And so, we started filming those vlog tours. I was like, I don't know if anyone's ever going to care. But what I do know is this would have really helped me a lot, like to be able to see what these areas are like. And that was like a really big therapeutic moment for me after that trauma. So you're absolutely right. And, if you're looking to move to a different area outside of this region, like just still hit me up, shoot me a text, 253-225-2395. Like I know really cool brokers all over the country that can help you narrow down some areas, but I think you're right, man. You still got to travel out there. Even if, if you're honest about it, it's still going to be different once you get there, or, the feeling is definitely,
you get a feeling. It's a vibe check. You have to like feel the area out a little bit.
Absolutely. All right. So maybe a little bit lighter now. Like, so now you've been here, came out a few times. Tell me like some like hidden gems, favorite spots around Tacoma. Like, I don't like to talk about this stuff ever on my YouTube channel because I always feel like it's just going to go to people who are like touristy and not really super serious. But if you're coming out here, like what's some spots that you found that like really just popped to you that, you want to give a shout out to, or you recommend people check out?
Yes. The whole area of, and I'm going to butcher these names. I think it's like Snoqualmie. How do you say it?
Snoqualmie?
Yes,
Okay.
that and Issaquah is just so pretty. Oh my gosh. We drove out there to see the falls in Snoqualmie.
Yep.
And what an experience. I mean, just to have a waterfall 40 minutes away from you can just go and stare at is great. It was all icy. It was really cool, but we couldn't stay long because it was freezing. We will be back, but that is a place to go. We really liked the Redmond Bellevue area from just driving around it. I'm sure there's a lot of depth in there, and we're excited to get more in there. But physical places like on this side of town, Point Ruston is awesome. I mean, I think it was my first trip up here alone to check on the house. I spent like 4 hours just sitting. I'm not kidding. 4 hours just sitting there on the water. It's beautiful. You have all these shops behind you and restaurants. Ice cream ice cream social. Shout out to them. Like you can smell the waffle cones from the parking garage. It is just beautiful. I mean, people are just walking up and down. The water is there. There's sea lions. It has the most beautiful view of Mount Rainier in a clear day. It's a great area. Everyone's just vibing. There's people like doing rollerblading. Kids are playing in the playground. It's such a cool place. I love it. And then a couple restaurants. There's a place called Salamone's Pizza in Tacoma. Chef's kiss. We wanted New York pizza, we want, and this ain't New York, but still, it was good. It was really good. But we're gonna go back pretty soon, Sarah. Next week, let's go for dinner. And then there's another place, a little hidden. I'm gonna call this a hidden gem because it was great Italian. It was called Toscano's Italian Grill in Puyallup.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it's like in an office building. You wouldn't expect there's a restaurant there. We walked in, didn't know how small it was, and it was like fully booked. We luckily got a table, but man, fresh food, really condensed menu of good items. Service was great, ambiance was fantastic. That's just a place to check out. But I mean, other than that, there's so much for us to explore. We're like so new into it. The weekends we're like dedicating to going out and doing new things. We spent like all day at the market on Monday, or at least a few hours, and loved it. I mean, there's so many nooks and crannies of that place of little shops selling trinkets and stuff. So
yeah, people really
underestimate
like how big Pike Place is.
It's huge. Sarah and I went when we came by for our first trip, but like apparently we only saw like an inch of it because this time we went all over. Oh, Sarah says Harbor Lights. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Austin and Elena were so kind to take us to dinner there, our first trip out here, and it was fantastic. Fresh seafood right on the water. It's gorgeous. We brought our in-laws there because we just thought it was so impressive. We had a really nice New Year's type meal there. Thank you, Sarah, for shouting out Harbor Lights.
That seafood mac and cheese is the bomb.
Oh man, I went back thinking it'd be there, but they got that seasonal menu rolling.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. I think we got the crab one, and it wasn't crab this time. It was a shrimp. Yeah. But I'm waiting now. I'm gonna go back for the crab one.
I had it the other night. We were heading to a movie up Point Ruston, and I was like, man, I love this place. Just
so good.
So good. Yeah, and Toscano's what sucks about Toscano's is they have the nerve to put it 2 blocks from my gym. I have to drive by Italian food on the way to the gym. That's just disgusting.
How dare they?
Rude. Absolutely.
It is rude. It is good though. It is good. Check it out. It's hard to find there's so many restaurants out here. It's hard to kind of narrow it down. So I've been perusing Reddit r/Tacoma, and there's so many good recommendations. I have a list on my Apple Maps of places favorited to go check out here in town and in beyond. 2 hours here can get you the desert. It can get you the coastline. It can get you a beach. It can get you to Canada.
It's crazy.
You can do everything in 2 hours.
The beach is wild. Now, here's what I'll say about Reddit. You have really great people on Reddit, and you have people who are not as fun on Reddit or positive.
That is true.
So I would say, don't live and die by Reddit. No. Definitely enjoy it for sure. But man, there's people also that I feel like I could someday post the wrong thing. People come out with pitchforks and stakes after me for sharing something. So
you should have seen the r/Dallas and the r/Texas pages. Those are pitchforks. It is a very there was a war going on there constantly. So yeah, you are definitely right. There are a lot of pros and cons of that community. But I've been skipping all the crap, and I just look for hey, I want a good bagel. Where am I going? I want a good pizza. Where am I going? That's what's good for me.
I wanted to see stuff about Giles Jerry, and then I wanted to see in town. But like now, obviously, we've lost Giles Jerry. So
rip, dude, absolute legend.
Rest in peace.
He was the best of us.
If you're still watching this on YouTube after this live, put RIP for Giles Jerry, please.
RIP in the chat for Giles Jerry.
RIP. All right. So one last question before we bounce out of here tonight. Looking ahead, what are your future plans here in Tacoma? And do you see yourself putting down like long-term roots here? Or is the move out here just kind of a chapter in a larger adventure for you guys? Are you planning on nomading around, or like, is this home?
This is home. We're here. We're loving it. We're staying. I mean, unless something catastrophic happens, this is where we're going to be. I hope that this is like the first seed planted for our family line to kind of branch on out. If anyone else in our family wants to come on down, come on down.
Be happy
well, yeah, and Austin will be happy to help you do it. So, but yeah, we're here to stay. We really like it, and there's just a lot of potential for us and our child, and we are excited to see what's to come. I mean, we've been here for a month maybe, and there's already a long list of things you want to achieve while we're here. So it's been good. Life's been good. I love Texas, but Texas isn't life for me. I was able to find a very, very, very comfortable slice of home out here. And I hope this information might have helped you.
Life after Texas.
Life after Texas. Texas alumni.
Texas alumni, that's right. All right. Any last piece of advice for anyone who is planning on relocating, whether it's here or anywhere else? I think it's been like kind of topic of our cast today. So any last words for anybody who might be seeing themselves in the same shoes that you and Sarah found yourself in that might help them in the future?
Yes. Find a local expert. I'm going to advertise for you for free, Austin.
Thanks, bro.
Find a local expert, because seriously, someone's got to know the area. You don't. You can Google search as much as you want. You can look at pictures and Google Street View as much as you want. There is no telling what an area is like and where you're going to be comfortable and what has all the things that you want. That's what your local representation is going to do. They're going to help you know where to look and where not to look. They're going to know resources for you when you are in town. Like, I needed an insurance agent. Austin has people for that. I need a daycare. Hey, you know some people around that can do daycare stuff. So it's just having those local connections was a super big help for us as well. So yeah, watch all the videos, figure out an area is interesting. And if you do like it out here, I mean, do what I did. I just sent him a message, and I was right. My wife wanted to just Google someone, but I said, hey, we watched his videos. Maybe we should try him. So.
Well, now Sarah's on my shit list for all of eternity. So,
yeah, well, she's listening. I'm sure she loves you.
Yeah, she does. She's sweet. Well, all right, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight as we talked with Ollie about their relocation and leaving the great state of Texas to head out west on their own little adventure. Ollie, is there a way people can reach you? Is there an IG, a TikTok? If people want to connect with you, is a way that you like people to connect with you?
I've ditched most social these days. So I mean, if you want to get in contact with me and you're a cool person, hit up Austin and he'll connect you with me. We can do a little like email or phone swap that way. But
love it.
I stay off the socials these days.
That's good. I don't get to do that. That's like literally my entire damn job. So
I know, right? Yeah. But hey, if you're moving, from Texas and you want some more Texas opinion, hit up Austin. He'll be happy to connect us, and I can help share any insights.
Love it. Ollie, thanks so much for joining us, brother. Get back to the wife and baby. And until next time, guys, I'm Austin of Tacoma. See you later.
Peace.